One can only imagine how off-putting it would be to see a double of yourself. Now add seeing that double kiss someone who isn't your partner. That unsettling feeling was exactly what Black Canary felt at the beginning of episode 21. As the episode opens, Batman shows Dinah Lance and her significant other Oliver Queen a surveillance video of herself kissing Superboy after a training sequence. It is easy to understand that she would panic and defend herself fast, but Batman tells her to keep watching. When she looks back at the screen, we are shown that it wasn't Dinah but rather Miss Martian, or Megan, shapeshifting to make herself look like Black Canary. Dinah is upset at first but then decides it would be easier to talk to her about why what she did was wrong. Megan is in her room watching a show called Hello, Megan, where the lead character is almost identical to Megan herself. She's laying on her bed when Dinah comes to knock at the door. In a hurry, Megan transforms her pale skin back into her regular marsh green hue. Dinah enters and informs her of how turning herself into other people could possibly get someone hurt in the long run. Just as the conversation is dying down and Megan understands why what she did is wrong, Batman calls her, Kid Flash, Robin, and Superboy for a mission. Once they convene with Batman, they are informed that the president of Korak has allied himself and his country with the dictator, Queen Bee, of the neighboring country, Biella. These two countries used to be one, and now the president has declared that they will be one again, and he will be stepping down. Batman reminds the young team members about how dangerous and deadly this could be for the people of Korak due to the violent nature of Queen Bee, and tells them that President Harjavti has already censored and silenced the press and protests taking place. He had also let the Balian army invade the capital city of Korak. Robin is the first to notice that President Harjavti has been put under some kind of spell, so Batman puts him in charge of the mission. The four young heroes embark on their mission and head to Korak. When they arrive in the country, they are above the Logan Animal Sanctuary where some Biolan tanks are beginning to invade the open land. The team is going to ignore the army and continue on toward the capital, but before they can, Kid Flash notices a stampede of wildebeest heading for a woman and her son. They decide that they need to intervene in order to help this family from being trampled. Kid Flash charges toward the troops with Robin and Miss Martian while Superboy heads toward the stampede. He tackles and stops a wildebeest from trampling the mother, son, and Onyx that they had been tending to. The three heroes finish with the tanks and troops and then head towards Superboy to check on the civilians. They are quick to learn that the woman is the owner of the sanctuary, Marie Logan, and her son, Garfield. She scolds them for doing anything and informs them that the sanctuary will now be a target due to their interference. Megan is quickly excited once she sees Marie, and immediately tells her that she's been a fan of her conservation work for a while, to which Superboy reminds her that she's only been on the planet for about 6 months. However, Megan is actually excited because Marie Logan was the star of her favorite show, Hello, Megan. Miss Martian offers to help Marie repair the fence that had been run over by tanks while Garfield takes the other team members into the house. Inside the house, the three heroes are introduced to Monkey, Garfield's pet monkey. He then mentions that Miss Martian looks a lot like his mother, and the heroes inquire about what he means. The young boy is then more than happy to show them the pilot episode of Hello, Megan on the VCR. While they are waiting for the copyright screen to pass, Miss Martian's excitement is shut down by Marie, who is reminding her that she was young when the show aired and has left that life behind her. In the midst of Megan's disappointment, a plane is heard approaching quickly by Superboy inside the house, and the heroes tell Garfield to stay put while they go outside to help Miss Martian. As Superboy brings down a drone, Marie is worried about her son even though the team has informed her that he was safe in the house. However, much like every other young child, he didn't listen and went out to the barn to release the animals so they wouldn't be hurt by the attack. Just as he is happily waving at his mother, a drone hits the fuel tank next to the building, and Garfield is thrown in the air and ultimately caught by Miss Martian. Once back in the house, Marie tells them that he is in shock and needs a blood transfusion immediately. The only person that can help is Megan due to her ability to transform her body and change her blood type into the one he needs. The other three heroes are kicked out of the room and end up watching the pilot episode of Hello, Megan. It is now that they begin to notice just how similar their Megan looks to the Megan on the show. The strangeness of the similarities only gets stranger when they realize that Megan's boyfriend on the show is named Connor, just like Superboy, who happens to be Miss Martian's current boyfriend. At this point, they are beginning to question whether or not it is a coincidence at all. They quickly flip over to the news channel when Miss Martian enters the room to inform them that the transfusion is finished. When they turn their gaze back to the television, they see President Harjavti giving another declaration solidifying the joining of the two countries. It is then that they notice the reasoning behind his spell-like trance. Simon. With the news that Garfield is stable, they head to the capital. There they find President Harjavti back to himself, but still exhausted and out of it. He is begging to know where his daughter is. The team is about to answer and try to help him when Biolan troops storm into the room and hold them all hostage. Miss Martian is able to sneak out to find Simon. She enters an abandoned theater full of surveillance monitors where Simon is waiting. The other heroes quickly overpower the troops and search for Megan while the president is reunited with his daughter. The three men enter the theater, but it is Megan is quick to knock them out with a mental blast. Simon commends her for her gumption, and it is here where the two begin to battle, and he reveals to us what Megan truly looks like. With her disguise stripped, she resembles a skeletal white alien that has worried her friends, and peers will reject her for what she truly looks like. Using all of her anger and strength, she defeats Simon and returns herself to her semi-human form. After helping her friends, she returns to the Logan sanctuary where Queen Bee awaits above a sleeping Garfield, letting Miss Martian know that the fight is far from over. On episode 22, the three highest members of the Justice League, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, are standing in the garden of the Watchtower, simply enjoying the view. Not long after, Aquaman appears to inform them that the rest of the League has arrived and is ready for the scheduled meeting. Once they are in the boardroom, the four main members start the discussion of whether or not the Justice League should expand, and if so, who should be a part of it. Almost immediately, Martian Manhunter reminds the other members that a larger Justice League can attract a larger group of villains, similar to the Injustice League, that wish to pose a threat. It is now that Superman informs him as well as the rest of the group that they are eligible to vote no on all candidates if they do not wish to expand, and thus, the suggestions start. Superman is the first to nominate Icon as a new member, which causes Green Arrow to laugh and recall his last blunder when Captain Marvel was brought onto the team simply because Superman thought that he was a fellow Kryptonian. As the laughing subsides, Wonder Woman is the next to nominate Rocket, wanting to get more female members for the League. Black Canary and Hawkwoman are quick to agree as the men grumble and pout toward their enthusiasm. We are then brought to the younger members of the team where Wally is helping himself to some snacks while Megan and Zatanna are preparing Thanksgiving dinner for everyone. Megan scolds him for eating all the treats and then inquires if he is staying for dinner, having already thought that he would be eating with his family that night. He agrees that is true and rushed out of the kitchen, leaving Megan and Zatanna in there alone. Zatanna begins to get upset, but claims that it is only because of the onions that are being prepared. However, Megan knows that it is about her father not being there, and begins to console her as Superboy watches from the lounge. As he is relaxing, he receives an ultrasonic message that only he can hear telling him to go to East Potomac Park in Washington, D.C. He quickly and quietly gets up to do so, silencing any concern from Megan and Zatanna as he swiftly leaves, claiming that he is simply taking Wolf for a walk. As we are brought back to the Justice League meeting, Captain Marvel is questioning whether Adam would be a useful addition to the team because of his size. However, Batman uses this as an example of why he would be a good addition. This is when Flash decides to nominate yet another Green Lantern to join the team, because his powers are useful. But the two Green Lanterns that are currently a part of the League are quick to shut down that idea. As the conversation continues, Superboy is arriving in a rainy DC on his supercycle with Wolf in tow. He parks and awaits his contact, who just so happens to be Lex Luthor, which almost immediately causes Superboy to turn around and begin his exit. However, Connor is stopped in his tracks as Lex Luthor informs him that Cadmus has created another super clone similar to himself. Superboy, now thoroughly irate, decides to return to the cloning facility and is almost not let in by Guardian, and even threatens to break the doors down if he doesn't. In lieu of multiple protests, he is allowed access and instantly confronts Guardian about the super clone that has been created. Everyone is telling him that he is the only clone. However, he is rather suspicious as he notices how similar Guardian looks to Red Arrow. This is when he tells him that the Bowman is, in fact, his nephew. We are quickly brought back to the League, who is currently discussing whether or not Blue Devil should be admitted. Green Arrow decides that it is a good time to nominate Red Arrow. Aquaman, however, is very quick to shut down the idea by bringing his behavior and deposition into the light, claiming that this would be less than helpful for the League. The debate continues, but we are brought back to Guardian continuing his tour of Cadmus. Doubilex is revealed as the one who has been communicating with Superboy ultrasonically by telling him that he can trust Guardian. He also informs the hero that Genomorphs are reduced to menial labor and will probably never be free. Doubilex inquires what Superboy will do when he comes face to face with the other clone. However, as they approach Project KR, we are quick to learn what will happen. As Superboy approaches the pod after Wolf sniffed out a hidden wall, he breaks the glass and frees the clone. Once awake, without missing a beat, the clone begins to attack Superboy, and it is clear to see that he is easily outmatched due to his half-human blood. Luthor is seen watching the fight occur from his limo until all of the security cameras go offline. It is then that we are brought back to the Watchtower, where Superman is stating that he doesn't want children to be a part of the Justice League. This simple rule has now caused the other members to begin to question each other due to true ages versus implied ages because of different powers, mutations, and planet ages. However, this debate is cut short as we are brought back to Superboy waking up in his old pod. Quickly enraged, he smashes his pod as he rages at Dr. Spence, who claims it was the fastest way to heal him. Even though he is still aggravated, he inquires about where the clone is and they tell him that he is missing along with some other Genomorphs. It is now that Luthor decides to ask him about the outcome of the fight, but Superboy wants nothing to do with him. Still too mad about what has just occurred to care about what the villain has to say. Connor is stopped in his tracks as Luthor offers him shields that will suppress his human DNA in order to beat the clone. However, they only last for an hour each. Superboy claims he wants nothing to do with them. However, Luthor insists he takes them anyway. In the midst of all this, we are shown the continuing discussion about the age and lies of the current Justice League members. Superboy continues his search for the clone as well as the other Genomorphs when he decides it is best to contact Dubilex to get some help and some possible answers. This is now when he admits that he was the one who took the clone and brings him to a secret cave under Cadmus, Genomorph City. He explains to Superboy that it is the only place where the Genomorphs can live a free life until they will hopefully, one day, be accepted by society. Superboy sees the clone, Match, tied up, and once he makes eye contact with him, the clone breaks free and begins his second attack on Superboy. Not long after, Superboy is overpowered once again and decides that although he can't trust Luthor, he needs to use the shields in order to win this fight. While he makes the decision, Martian Manhunter is nominating his niece, Miss Martian, to be a member of the League. His argument is that she is actually 48 years old according to Earth years, even though she is still an adolescent on her home planet. Due to this logic, other members ask if the same pertains to Superboy, who is, technically, only 1 year old. This question is quickly overlooked by the obvious discomfort on Superman's face, who is still clearly uncomfortable about the idea of there being a clone of him. It is then that our attention is then brought back to this very clone and his fight against Match. With the boosted power of the shield, he wins the fight against his clone and returns him back to his pod, ready to leave Cadmus. Once he is back at his supercycle, Lex Luthor appears with one last bit of information, that he was the human that gave his DNA that makes up the other half of Superboy. As he grabs the villain in front of him, refusing to believe his words, Luthor utters a phrase similar to those that would wake a sleeper cell, and freezes Superboy until he is gone. His trance breaks hours later, and confused and angry, he makes his way back to headquarters. At the Watchtower, the heroes are ready to vote on who will become a new member as well as who will remain in the League. Once they have decided, they are sure that things are going to change rapidly. A young girl is being carried by her loving father, ready to get tucked in for the night. The moment is picture perfect, but little do they know that a masked figure, swinging through the city, is about to ruin their sweet moment. As the man is saying his goodnights to the blonde child, Black Spider is shooting a web through their window and yanking the father through the frame without a second thought. The girl screams from her father and is watching as the adult is dangling above the sidewalk at least 7 floors up. There is little time for negotiation as Black Spider scolds the man for his crusading reporting, but that doesn't stop the man, now known as Mr. Jones, from pleading to not eliminate him in front of his daughter. However, the arachnid villain shows no remorse as he drops the father to his death. As he approaches the ground faster and faster, an arrow shoots into the frame, and a green gel explodes beneath him. Just before he is about to hit the ground, it leaves him perfectly unscathed. Mr. Jones stands up and looks in the direction the arrow had come from to see 2 archers standing on the roof opposite his building. Green Arrow and Artemis begin to shoot their arrows at Black Spider, but all the way in Belle Reve, a man with a metal shield covering his arm and a metal mask covering his face is about to break into a prison. The mystery man opens an air vent on the roof to see that there are laser beams lining the inside to prevent anyone from sneaking in or out unnoticed. He looks down to check his watch, and as the next minute passes, the laser beams turn off and he thanks his associate for being punctual before entering the prison. However, back in Star City, the 2 archers are having trouble hitting Black Spider as he continuously seems to avoid their arrows while maintaining his witty banter. As he makes a rather decent blow to Green Arrow, Artemis brings it upon herself to carry on with her barrage of arrows, causing the veteran to commend her work and let her take charge of the attack. However, a quick glance back to the prison shows the metal-covered man breaking an unknown prisoner out of his cell. In an instant, we are sent back to Star just in time to witness Artemis capture the Black Spider in one of her webbed arrows, quickly taking us back to the prison, specifically the ICU of the hospital ward where an old man lay sick in a bed, and another prison with orange hair and a sneaky face taunting him from a chair next to it. We are then taken back to Gotham where an excited Artemis tells Green Arrow about their fight they just won. They walk into an alley where a police box waits at the end. Artemis gets in as Green Arrow says that he'll see her next week. The box quickly identifies that it is Artemis before she is transported somewhere, and Green Arrow is left in the alleyway. However, he is not alone. Red Arrow appears behind him and commends Artemis on her improvement when a police scanner goes off warning them of a robbery occurring in their area. They agree to take care of it together, and we are brought back to the prison to see that the sneaky-faced man is the prisoner that is being helped to escape. As he and the Metal Man are escaping in a truck full of medical waste, the man in the hospital that is taunting the sickly prisoner is revealed to be a robot double for the man that is currently escaping. Returning to Star City, we see the robbers hanging from a building, strung up by arrows with the stolen goods next to them also hanging. The police show up to continue the work while Green Arrow informs his red counterpart of his eligibility to join the Justice League. Before he answers, we are brought to Gotham City where Artemis is telling her mother, Huntress, about how the mission she was on with Green Arrow went. However, the conversation quickly sours when Huntress reveals she was the one who had asked Batman and Green Arrow to keep a good eye on Artemis, causing the young girl to assume she has been working with the team due to pity alone. She storms out of the room, and we are brought to New Orleans where the metal-covered man and the sneaky-faced man, now known as Professor Ivo, enter a warehouse with what seems to be other villains. While they are at first reluctant because the man in front of them is not Tomorrow, they allow him to stay. The story shifts back to Gotham City where Artemis decides that she has nothing to prove and transports herself to Mount Justice. She is immediately met with an excited group of heroes informing her that Red Arrow has officially joined the team. It is here where Green Arrow begins to inform the other heroes of upcoming problems. He shows them a picture of the metal-armed man who we now know as Sportsmaster. He believes that it would be best to keep a close eye on the villain and see what he is up to, so he sends Aqualad, Kid Flash, and Red Arrow to retrieve the information. Artemis quickly volunteers to fly the bioship just so she can be a part of the mission. Once in the air, Kid Flash openly tells Artemis that she is a true archer and has nothing to prove, hoping this will calm her and make her feel more comfortable as part of the team. In a separate part of the ship, we see Aqualad and Red Arrow talking where the Crimson Marksman reveals he only joined the team due to his suspicion that Artemis is a mole. Back at Mount Justice, Mgan, Zatanna, and Superboy realize that they made a mistake taking a night off and decide that it would be more interesting to see what Red Tornado does when he's not working. Back in Orleans, we see Red Arrow watching Sportsmaster from the tree line as he is boarding a boat. The team keeps a distance in pursuit of the villain to see where he could possibly be going. As the team gets closer, Artemis is distracted by someone in the woods, her apparent sister, Cheshire. The two begin to fight as Sportsmaster catches a case that is thrown at him from a moving train. Artemis and Red Arrow fight Cheshire until the senior archer breaks off to follow Sportsmaster about with Aqualad while it is being tacked. However, the villain is quick to notice the tracker, outsmarts the two heroes, and continues his trek down the river. Kid Flash and Artemis finish their fight against Cheshire by letting her win and placing trackers on her sword. As the team reconvenes, they are unaware that Artemis has attached a tracker to the moving train for an unknown reason. They regroup and continue their hunt for the villains with Red Arrow still suspicious of the young girl. In a quick glance back at Mount Justice, the three young heroes break into Red Tornado's apartment to find Kwanzaa decorations and what seems to be a body covered by a sheet on the bed before we are immediately returned to the villain warehouse in Orleans. Here the villains use the equipment Sportsmaster got from the train as well as other pieces they had to create some kind of tentacle-looking weapon in a small glass container. Artemis has appeared in the conjoining warehouse where Cheshire is, and learns that Red Arrow has put a tracker on her because of his distrust. In the middle of all this, the heroes back home learn that Red Tornado has created a human-like android for himself so he can learn what it is like to live among humans. Back at the warehouse, the rest of the team shows up to fight Sportsmaster and Cheshire while Artemis attempts to stop the villains with their weapons. They stare at her mockingly as one uses a spell to transport all of them, leaving glass statues in their places that shatter immediately. When they return to Mount Justice, Red Arrow reveals Artemis's tracker switch, causing the rest of the team to now distrust her. When she returns home, Sportsmaster is already in her room and we learn that not only is Cheshire her sister, Jade, he is her father and she is now faced with whether or not she will remain a hero or follow her family into becoming a villain. On episode 24, starting in Bruges at a majestic circus, a trapeze act is happening for a large crowd to look on in awe. The Daring Danger family is the group performing, 2 on the trapeze, 2 shooting arrows at those in the air, and 1 throwing barrels for the artists to jump through. Do any of these skills sound familiar? As the young man on the trapeze is trying to land his stunt and be caught by his female counterpart, he misses, and it is now that we learn that this boy is Robin. Trying not to break their cover, Superboy throws a barrel that catches Robin in the air. However, it's still not enough for him to reach Mgan's hands, and she has to use her telekinesis to help him the extra inch. They land and we are brought back to where this plan was being hatched. The team was originally supposed to consist of Superboy, Robin, Mgan, and Artemis, but Red Archer reminded Robin of the possibility that one of the other 3 could be a mole and decided to join the mission just in case. Back at the circus, Robin is helped backstage by his teammates after coming down with a sudden sick feeling. Backstage, the ringmaster, Holly, is confronted by an Interpol agent claiming to know what he's done in previous cities. After introducing himself to the dangers, he walks away, and the team is not on top of separate roofs discussing their plan, and the involvement of Interpol in their situation. Using Mgan's ability to communicate with each other telepathically, we learn that Robin is still feeling sick. The team is quick to notice what they assume is one of the other trapeze artists climbing a fence to enter the facility they are staking out. As he hops over the fence, and they begin their pursuit of the masked invader, as we see Superboy uses one of the shields that were gifted to him by Lex Luthor to enhance his kryptonic abilities. After using his X-ray vision, Superboy informs them that the suspect is in the warehouse. The figure is using a crowbar to open a wooden crate and taking something out when the team tells him to surrender. He quickly uses a small device to shoot fire at them before trying to escape. Just before they are about to continue the chase, Red Arrow notices a couple of containers labeled live ammo just in time to warn the team of the incoming explosion. Sheltered by a shipping container, the team emerges and an angry Superboy is the first to try and chase the thief. Robin tells him that they have to get Miss Martian out before the fire does too much damage. It is only then that Superboy returns from his enraged state, and we are beginning to understand the possibly dangerous side effects of the shields. He scoops her up and quickly exits the building as Robin instructs the two bowmen to chase after the thief right before he collapses onto the floor. They ignore his orders and take him out to safety instead as the building crumbles around them. Back at the circus, Agent Faraday from Interpol is back interrogating the ringmaster because another weapons plant has been destroyed as the circus is in town. He claims that it can't be a coincidence, but the ringmaster is having none of it as he lies about the whereabouts of his circus members. The team is now worried about what else he could be lying about if he's claiming they were all in bed when they clearly hadn't been. While sitting in a train car, the team goes over security footage while still communicating telepathically to avoid anyone overhearing their suspicions. They believe that they had followed an acrobat as well as the fire breather the previous night. However, footage from weapon plant break-ins from other countries shows that there are more than two possible suspects. At this point, Red Arrow is beginning to believe that the entire circus is involved with Holly as the mastermind. Robin is quickly upset by the team's immediate blame on the people of the circus and storms out of the car. It is now that Superboy reveals he's aware of Red Arrow's reasoning to join the mission, and grows aggravated by his distrust of him and his fellow team members. However, the marksman stands his ground by giving valid reasons for his distrust in the team members. Mgan is quick to escort Superboy out of the room, leaving Artemis to tell Red Arrow to have an open mind about their devotion to the team. Outside of the train, Robin is walking along in the cascading snow looking at the posters that line the outside of the train cars. He stops at one titled The Flying Graysons as he hears memories of his life before the Justice League. His earpiece beeps and it's Kid Flash calling to see what he is up to because he knows that the mission that Robin is on isn't technically a mission, but rather a personal inquiry. Robin explains that Jack Hawley was a friend from when he was in the circus, and he needs to know if the allegations of him starting a global crime spree are true. Kid Flash is upset that Robin didn't have him involved in the mission because he already knows his backstory, but the former circus performer explains that is exactly why he didn't bring him. Back under the circus tent, Hawley announces that the circus train will be leaving for Geneva in a few hours. The heroes along with the rest of the artists pack up the train as Mgan talks with the strongman about the virus going around that Robin and some other performers had caught. It is inside that we learn Mgan is now also sick after the symptoms came on suddenly. Robin leaves the room to ask Jack when Ray, the strongman, started working for him after believing he might be the cause of all the sickness. Jack sends them in the direction of the Musliman and the team leaves to go speak with him. As they leave, Jack's body begins to transform and we see him shapeshift into Ray, revealing that it was never Jack that they were talking with at all. Once the team reaches Ray's bunk and finds it empty, their suspicion is quick to grow as they realize there are more clues pointing to Ray being the mastermind, including ash residue and a fake mask of his face. Robin rushes to the opposite end of the train, and his suspicions are solidified when he finds Jack Hawley tied up in a room and informs him that it had been Ray's doing. At this point, Superboy has found the clown in the dining car transporting a large case. He quickly places a shield on his body and scans the content of the container to find some kind of dangerous-looking equipment. The clown uses some telekinetic powers to throw a bunch of chairs at Superboy, but none of them hit him. He chases the clown onto the roof of the train car where Robin meets him in time to explain that his name is not Ray and that he is the Parasite, a villain who once stole Superman's powers. The Parasite then transforms into his true form, a dark blue, almost purple creature with no nose and glowing yellow eyes. By using physical contact, he feeds off other people's abilities. He stole Miss Martian's abilities, and as he is explaining what he can do, he grabs Superboy and steals his full-powered abilities thanks to the shield he's still wearing. He drains him of his powers, rendering him useless, then uses Superboy's heat vision to burn both Red Arrow and Artemis bows, then disappears, leaving the team there. Still, on top of the train car, Mgan is holding Robin up from his dangling position on the side of the moving vehicle after he had attempted to jump and stop the Parasite. After they are both up and standing, Robin notices that the Parasite had drained abilities from Superboy that he's not even supposed to have. After some excuse given by Connor, they leave the roof of the train and return to an open room below where Robin declares that he picked the Parasite's pocket. Once the encryption on the USB is broken, they learn that he is working for Intergang and has been collecting pieces for a device that generates black holes. They learn that the final piece needed for the black hole generator is in Geneva, the last stop on the Circus tour. The Parasite is inside a facility charging up the black hole generator as the team is trying to come up with a quick plan. Before they can even begin to discuss anything, Superboy, now amped up and regenerated by another shield, interrupts them and charges the Parasite. However, within seconds, he is once again rendered useless as the rest of the team begins their attack. After some more attacks on the villain, he is surrounded by fire, claiming that he is unstoppable because of Superboy's double-dose strength. However, he failed to realize that he also gained Miss Martian's weaknesses when he stole her powers, leaving him weak, drained, and ultimately defeated, surrounded by the fire. Robin is then able to easily turn off the black hole generator just as Interpol shows up to collect and detain the Parasite. Red Arrow is tired on the ground when Artemis comes over to lend a helping hand. To her surprise, he takes it and admits that he no longer thinks that there is a mole among them due to the multiple chances for someone to have betrayed them on the mission. Back at the train depot, Robin is being thanked by Jack Hawley for saving his show. Just as Robin is about to leave, Hawley finally admits that he'd known that he was a Grayson all along and asks him for one last favor, to perform one last time as the Daring Dangers.